So clearly one of the most interesting things at this year's Sea Otter Classic was the gearbox that Praxis was showing off. And there are better outlets out there if you want to do a deep dive into how it works. Essentially, it has gears that fold back and forth, fall into place underneath the chain, so the chain doesn't actually have to derail or shift locations. The chain stays consistent, but the gears essentially expand and contract, fold into place underneath it. But I want to talk about it from a suspension nerd standpoint, because I get this question a lot, which is, why don't you do a gearbox version of the bike? Will you do a gearbox version of the bike? I think gearboxes are really cool once you get up into longer travel bikes for downhill, things like that. For my money right now, there's a little bit of extra resistance and clunkiness involved that make them less than ideal for a bike that has to go uphill in addition to downhill. But there's a lot to be said for getting weight off of the rear wheel from a suspension standpoint, and there's a lot of freedom that they give you. So what I'm primarily interested in about this Praxis system is the same thing that interested me about the Effie gear out of France that was used on the Cavalieri bikes, and that is that though the Praxis is quite large, you have an option to have a separate output from your input, which means that you can have a high pivot that originates entirely inside the gearbox. So the only thing that you see is a pivot up there with the chain coming off of it. No two chains, no big giant chain looping up and around. You pedal around the center of the crankset and the output occurs elsewhere. That, from a suspension design standpoint, is something to keep an eye on.